Welcome to English 4E. This is class 26, and we are working on the assignments in Unit 3 right now. We're looking at K32. Today is Tuesday, April 2nd, and I am Jillian Percy. Okay, contact information. Facebook and YouTube are the same, capital G, capital P-E-R-C-Y, space, capital W-A-H-S-A. My email is jillian.percy@nnecschools.org. If you have a question about assignment, if you want to talk to me while I'm on air about assignments that I'm teaching at that point, 1-800-465-7144. And my office number is 1-800-667-3703 and extension 2211. Okay, so today we're going to look at different types of business reports. We're going to look at a sample business proposal and answer questions on the sample business proposal. We're also going to review business writing purposes because they're slightly different than regular purpose, review the concept of audience, and review writing summaries. Okay, so I had a video on the difference between academic and business writing, but I'm not sure if I can get it to play properly. For some reason, I've been having problems with videos in PowerPoint. Let's see if it works. If not, I do have it queued up on YouTube. Oh, wait. Okay, good.
Hi, my name is David Taylor, and I teach Writing 394, the advanced business writing course that you're going to take. I'd like to spend a few moments today talking about those course objectives, as well as about the differences between business writing and academic writing. And here to help me do that,
we aren't doing the course, but I like how he discusses the differences.
Dr. Damia, thank you so much for joining us today. Oh, thank you, Dr. Taylor. It's my pleasure to be here. Perhaps we could get started by talking first about the purpose of writing. Well, the purpose of academic writing is for the student to prove his or her mastery of the subject material. I see. And the purpose of business writing is to convey information to employees, a work group, or the entire company to help them achieve a practical business goal. Now, what about audience? Well, the audience is me, of course, the professor, who judges and grades the work. I see. And then audience in business writing can be a superior, a colleague, a subordinate, clients. Then there are the secondary unknown audiences that happen once your writing becomes circulated. My, that sounds, how shall I say, complex. It is complex, which is why one of the course objectives in 394 is audience analysis. It's one of the most important skills. What about duration? Well, after the session is over, I delete all student works for reasons of confidentiality, of course. I see. And it's the exact opposite in business writing, where once that writing is out there, it is permanently associated with your company and your name. My name? I'm sorry, one's name. It's quite all right. No problem. Business writing can be either very informal or formal. What about this last aspect of format? Well, in academic writing, our standard bearer is the academic essay with sources, as governed by some rather complex style guides such as APA, MLA, Chicago, and so forth. I see. The formats for business writing can also be complex, and they range from the typical business letter to RFPs, requests for proposals, as well as many different kinds of reports. Well, that is very interesting. Shall we wrap up now? I have my regular office hour today. Oh, I'm sorry, Dr. Damia. I don't want to keep you, but please accept my absolutely. It's my pleasure. As you can.
Okay, I'm going to stop there. I thought he did a really lovely job of explaining the difference between academic and business writing. And I wanted to explain it because in this portion of the course, we're kind of moving more towards doing business writing. Even though this is an English writing course, It is the workplace. So the whole point is to prepare people for being able to do workplace style communication. So I just wanted to emphasize the difference there. Okay. Okay, all about reports. One of the problem-solving tools used by decision makers in the workplace is the report. A report gathers, summarizes, and analyzes information. It may also recommend solutions to a problem if it's required. There are two basic styles of report, a formal report and the informal report. And there are two main types of reports, informational reports and analytical reports. The style and type of the report will depend, of course, on its purpose and its audience. I really liked how the guy said that understanding your audience is such a huge part of business writing. I think in academic writing, we're so used to our real audience being the teacher that we kind of don't think past that a lot of times. Okay, so formal and informal reports. Formal reports are usually longer and more detailed than informal ones. The reason for the longer length is that the issues examined in the formal report are generally more complex. More information will be required, and the subject will be analyzed in greater depth than in an informal report. Another difference between the two styles of report is that the informal report is usually written for internal circulation. In other words, you're passing it around to other people in the office, maybe your colleagues, maybe a supervisor, whereas a formal report could be written for internal circulation, but it could also be written for external circulation. In other words, people outside of the business. So here's an example of an informal report intended for internal company usage. And up top, you've got the date, January 10th, 2010. It's to Joanne Maru from Melissa Noble. The subject is Recommended Communication Interface for Internal Use. The following report compares two software programs and makes recommendations about the most suitable product for our company. I have researched software packages offered by various companies and narrowed my choices down to two, Softronic and MediaCore. The main criteria used when selecting the software were 1, cost, 2, user friendliness, and 3, technical support. Cost. Softronic offers a more competitive price in comparison to some other companies, including MediaCore. The one-time price is $23,000. There's an annual user fee of $650, which includes installation, upgrades, and technical support. The MediaCore product has a slightly higher price and an additional fee for each upgrade. However, it does not charge an annual user fee. See the table below. So price, Softronic is $23,000, MediaCore is $25,700. Softronic has an annual fee of $300 every year. MediaCore does not. Upgrades are $0 for Softronic. Upgrades are $250 for MediaCore. User friendliness. Both companies sent demos of their products. I asked some staff to test them for user friendliness. Our staff found that both products are easy to use and no extensive training would be required. Softronic offers free software training with a 5-year contract for their services. MediaCore provides manuals and training materials free of charge. The Softronic product may require additional upgrading of the hardware in some of our offices. Technical support. Both companies offer excellent technical support online and by phone. Conclusions and recommendations. The Softronic product is a more cost-effective choice in comparison to the MediaCore product. So it's interesting to me that she only kind of looks at cost at the very end, even though she's looked at 3 items during her overall usage. But this is an informal report. It's basically just written to whoever's going to be in charge of buying this and letting her know that, or him, the results of her sort of informal research. This is a more formal business report example. It's a report on staff turnover in GHS Corporation, submitted August 8th, 2019. And you can tell it's a formal because you have the introduction, right? That's a very formal part of a report. The human resources manager requested this report to examine the high turnover rate of employees at GHS Corporation. The information in this report was gathered by members of the Human Resources Department over 3 months. The 5-member team analyzed administration records and working conditions, as well as interviewed staff. In this report, recommendations are made to minimize the high turnover rate among the staff working at GHS Corporation. Background. That's another section that is part of a formal business report, but that probably isn't needed in an informal business report. GHS Corporation has been operating for 10 years. It employs 200 people, with most of the employees tasked with processing fees for insurance clients. Despite operating in a region with substantial unemployment, the annual turnover has been between 60 to 65% every year. Findings. The most significant issue found by the HR team when interviewing staff was the lack of support to new mothers who require childcare services to be able to come to work. Employees mentioned their frustration at not having an in-house childcare system that could help them continue working. Another issue mentioned by the staff was the lack of communication between employees and upper management. They expressed their concerns about receiving inconsistent and late instructions. They shared that they didn't know the main business objectives, which led them to lose interest in the company and their jobs. Conclusions. The main issues that we found were as follows. 1, lack of support to new mothers in regards to childcare. 2, lack of communication between the staff and upper management. Recommendations. To address these two main issues, we recommend the following steps be taken. 1, an in-house childcare center can be established at minimal cost to GHS, encouraging mothers to return to work. 2, each department should choose an employee ambassador to represent the interests of staff at management meetings. This ambassador can express concerns and relay outcomes to their teams to increase engagement. A formal report would also probably include some graphs or charts or data showing the different information they collected in those interviews and exit research. Okay. So that's looking at informal reports versus formal reports. Now we're looking at informational reports versus analytical reports. So if you were asked to prepare an information report, you would be expected to present facts or assemble background information that will assist managers in making decisions. No recommendations or evaluations will be required on your part. You're just giving them the info so they can make decisions. An information report might provide current data on inventory on hand, on order and on back order, or in process of shipment. Another report might give the cumulative expenses involved in each job shipped and in production for the past 6 months. Things like annual reports, progress and sales reports, inspection reports, accident reports, procedural manuals, and training manuals are all other examples of informational reports. So this is an example of one type of information report. It's a company's sales report. It looks like it's going by quarters. Quarter 1 has been completed. Looks like quarter 2, either business has fallen off completely or they aren't quite finished quarter 2, and looks like quarter 3 and quarter 4 have not been done. And it looks like here's the different items they sell, and here's how much they made selling those items in the first quarter. Okay. So they aren't analyzing it yet. They're just reporting it. Someone else may take a look at this and decide, maybe we need to make more frames, or what can we do to increase sales of disc brakes or caliper brakes, things like that. Analytical reports. Analytical report goes beyond the reporting of facts. It makes recommendations on possible solutions to the problem being researched, or offers evaluations of the data or the various courses of action open. Analytical reports may be used as aids for managers making decisions about a problem or as guidelines for future action. Proposals, feasibility reports, budget reports, evaluative reports, and product analyses are examples of analytical reports. In the following section, you'll be taking a look at one of the analytical reports mentioned, which is a proposal. At some point in time, you may be a member of a group within your own community, or perhaps in your own initiative, planning to develop a proposal of some sort for real. Before we get there, we're going to kind of look more generally at reports. Here's a sample analytical report. Website visits, they're looking at the number of website visits, how many people came to your website in a given time. Maybe they viewed your product services page, read the blog, checked out your company overview. Tracking this activity is key to understanding how well your inbound marketing is succeeding at attracting and directing people to your website. Total website visits, how many people are coming? Is that number changing month over month? As your reach grows and you publish more content, this number should be increasing. Website visits by source. People can come to your website via numerous pathways. Is one source performing better than another? Use that information to iterate on your campaigns moving forward, but also to commend the marketer who helped increase traffic via that source. So here, website visits by source, they have it kind of color coded, offline sources, other campaigns, social media referrals, paid search, organic search, email marketing, direct trafficking. And then here you've got total website visits by month. And you can see it's been gradually increasing from maybe a little bit over 300 all the way up to over 1,000. And here they've broken it down very specifically. So this information that you can see kind of organically here in the data, they've broken the numbers down month by month of direct traffic, email marketing, each basic source of where people came from to see the website. Okay. And so this is giving you a whole bunch of information that you could then use to make decisions. Okay. A proposal is one type of analytical report in which you describe a need or a problem, suggest a solution, and try to persuade the reader to agree to your solution. Proposals can be a few pages long or just one paragraph, depending on the nature and purpose of the proposal. Here is an example of a brochure from the Bank of Montreal called Creating a Financing Proposal, Presenting Your Company, Targeting Your Strengths, Making the Approach. The following are some guidelines and tips to help you organize an informal proposal. Use facts to make the argument for you and avoid appeals to theories or emotions. In the introduction, provide highlights for the body of the report. Briefly describe the problem or need and the proposed solution. Include the total cost of the proposal and the completion date if applicable. Begin the body of the proposal with background information. Right? We talked about that in one of the reports we were just looking at. Describe the problem in more detail and suggest ways of evaluating possible solutions. Next, describe your proposal. Include relevant details, such as how long it will take to put in place, how the work will proceed, and a breakdown of costs. Number 4, use your proposal to describe what's needed for solving the problem and to show how your suggestions will fulfill each need. Number 5, to show that your proposal is the best, you could present other solutions and analyze each one according to the needs you have presented. Number 6, describe the qualifications and experience you or your company has in the field. You could end with a summary of the benefits to be derived from your proposal. Be enthusiastic, but maintain a formal tone. With the information provided here, along with a sample proposal and assignment, you'll have a better understanding of this type of report, and you will be better prepared to write one later on. Okay, so this is for key question number 32, proposal analysis that's worth 25 marks. You're now provided with a sample proposal from a group of people who are hoping to obtain something. Once you've done your reading, you're to complete the following questions. So we're actually going to look at the questions first, and then we'll go through and look at the proposal, okay? So question A, what is the purpose of this proposal? Who is the audience? 3 remarks. Remember that the 3 business purposes are to inform, to build goodwill, to persuade, or to request. Who is the audience? In other words, who is the proposal written to? B, if the proposal is approved and the initiative is implemented, who will become the audience? 3 marks. In other words, once the new House of Horrors project is completed, who will be viewing it? Hint, they do discuss the audiences they hope to reach in their proposal. Because initially, the proposal is written to who they're trying to get the money from, right? Hey, here's this great proposal. Please give us this money and we can put this in place. But then once they've created their item, someone else is going to be viewing it. So the audience basically changes for who the completed product is going to be viewing. C, list 5 specific details of information contained within the proposal that you believe are important for the readers of the proposal to know about. That's worth 5 marks. This is a chance to practice your prioritizing skills. What details are the most important? How do you decide? So don't just pick the first 5 sentences. Make sure you pick the 5 most important items, okay? And yes, there's some subjectivity to that, but you want to be careful to not just like write down the first 5 things you see is what I'm trying to get across. Okay, D, what benefit will this proposal, if it gets approved, have for a larger audience? Comment in at least 2 sentences. This part is worth 3 marks. In other words, once this project is finished, how is it going to help people? What benefit? What does it do? How will it be a useful or a good thing for other people to see? Agree or disagree? E, do you think there'll be any disagreement to this proposal? Comment in at least 2 sentences, 3 marks. If you think there's going to be disagreement, what do you think the objections or the concerns might be? And if you think there will be no disagreement, what makes you think that? Why do you think that the proposal is so amazing that there's no way people will disagree? All right, context. F is, do you think the context, in other words, the timing and the circumstance is appropriate for this proposal? Comment in at least 2 sentences. This part is worth 3 marks. What would constitute poor timing, right? If you think this timing is appropriate, what time would have been inappropriate? And if you think this circumstance is appropriate, what would have constituted poor or inappropriate circumstances? So thinking about that kind of maybe help you think about why is the timing and the circumstance a good time or a good opportunity, I guess, for this proposal. Okay, G, in a paragraph consisting of at least 6 sentences, summarize the whole proposal, right? And it's quite a few pages, so it's going to be a little bit of a tricky thing, okay? Think about what is the most important parts to mention. Not every single part is going to be important. Remember that things like the background and the introduction may have some information that is redundant, that repeats itself, right? You might not need every single detail about the budget. Remember that when you're doing that summary, you want to make sure that you're using good paragraph formatting. You want to do a good opening sentence. You want to include 3 to 5 body sentences that give the details and write a closing sentence that restates the topic. Actually, I would say probably 4 to 5 because your minimum is 6 sentences. Okay, so this proposal is really quite big. You're going to need to prioritize in order to summarize it very well. What is the most important information? What are these people asking for? What's the big idea in their proposal? Why do they want it? What are they going to use it for? What will be different if they get what they want? In other words, how is this going to change things or benefit people? Who will it help? Who will it benefit? Themselves or someone else? Okay, so here is the sample proposal, okay? Request for funding to Friends of the Environment Foundation from the Ontario Public Interest Research Group, Kenora. Introduction. We are requesting funding in order to improve a very popular interactive display designed to educate the public about green environmental practices in the home. The estimated total cost of the production is $7,500. After receiving a donation of some display panels, we still need $4,500. Construction of the display would begin in April or earlier if a part-time coordinator is hired and be completed by the end of May. So So this is kind of your rough overview, just kind of giving your reader the highlights of what they're about to read, essentially. So then here is the background about the proposal. In 2021, OPIRG Kenora developed an extremely popular educational display called the City House of Horrors. The display is a mock-up of a house with real fixtures, bath, toilet, stove, and so on. Individuals walk into the display as they would rooms of their own home and are presented with information in a variety of forms that provides practical and simple alternatives to common household activities that are bad for the environment. There are flaps to lift, quizzes and puzzles to solve, and buzzer boards to press. Literature is provided for individuals to take home with them. During the summer, we conducted a door-to-door survey in Kenora. Over 200 households were visited, and over 150 environmental surveys were collected. This project provided us with important background research on what people need to make their lives more environmentally friendly. We learned that people were very eager to make a difference, but still lacked friendly ways of getting information to make the necessary changes in their lifestyle. Proposal. We are seeking funds to improve our version of the City House of Horrors. The concept is fully developed, but we want to make it more professional looking and lightweight so that it can be easily moved and set up. We would like to make a new model that can stand up to a lot of use. Rationale. Rationale is like your reason. The number of environmental disasters and problems can be overwhelming for most people. It is often difficult to see how individuals can have an impact on problems as large as global warming. The importance of the City House of Horrors display is that it shows how individuals can make significant contributions to their local and global environment. The City House of Horrors is an interactive display that has proved popular with both adults and children of all ages. The display is fun and yet manages to convey an enormous amount of information. The positive feedback that we have received about the display is evidence of the fact that it is an extremely accessible way of presenting information. We have received many requests to exhibit our display both within and outside Kenora, but because of its unwieldy size, we have not often been able to fulfill these requests. Uses of the display. The display will first be shown at the Kenora Harbor Fest on May 27th with an expected attendance of between 300 and 400 people from Kenora. The display will then go to the Kenora Shopping Mall as part of National Environment Week, June 1st to 7th, on all the activities in Kenora. The display will be used at numerous community events, particularly during the summer. During the fall and winter, we would like to book the display into schools. We have talked to several area teachers involved in environmental education, and they are extremely excited about setting up the display in their schools. We would concentrate on on school bookings in Kenora initially, and slowly extend our range into the communities of Red Lake, Bombertown, Dryden, and Sioux Lookout. Okay. Estimated costs. The project coordinator would receive $2,500. Benefits, $500. Display panels is $3,000. Materials and supplies, $750. Printing and promotion, $750. Total expenses, $7,500. In-kind contribution, $3,000. In-kind means instead of donating money, somebody donated the actual materials. So they mentioned earlier in the proposal, somebody already donated the display panels, which is kind of cool because that's almost half of the money they need, right? Request from Friends of the Environment Foundation, $4,500. So they're listing what they're using the money for rather than just giving them, hey, here's a total. It makes it more reasonable when people can see, okay, well, this part's going to pay a salary and their benefits. This part is going to the different materials. This part is going to printing and advertising, and so that they know whether it's a reasonable request or an inflated request that is overly expensive, or if it's underly expensive, like, oh, hey, I don't think you can possibly get it done for that kind of price. It gives a way for the foundation to be able to evaluate the amount of money and whether it's an appropriate amount. Budget notes. The project coordinator's position will be full-time for a period of 8 weeks at $16 an hour, or alternatively, a half-time position for 15 weeks. The coordinator will be responsible for developing the display, coordinating volunteers, organizing the staffing, and the setup of the display at each location. Benefits would include unemployment insurance, Canada Pension Plan, employer's health tax, and vacation pay, 4%. Materials and supplies, for example, cardboard, Bristol board, and laminating, is to rebuild components of the display. Number 4, printing of educational materials and promotion of the display. 5, we have received a contribution of modular display panels and traveling cases. Staffing. We are a volunteer organization. We have 2 permanent staff and a variable number of grant staff. We have a volunteer board of students and community members, and numerous volunteers working on a wide variety of issues. This kind of project will draw on the ideas and advice of many of these people, and the project coordinator will be responsible for coordinating volunteer contributions to the project. At least one of the permanent staff will be involved in supervising the project. Depending on the various granting agencies, we may also have grant staff to assist with various aspects of the display. Certainly, we will have numerous people to draw on to staff the display at the block party and during Environmental Week. Okay. Proposal. Schedule. We would like to begin the project in April or February if we have somebody part-time for 16 weeks, and finish at the end of May in time for the Kenora Harbor Fest celebrations. Credentials. We have enclosed a copy of our last progress report that describes our organization and the type of projects that we work on. So this proposal, you can see it's formal, right? They've included background information, they've included introduction, they've included an estimated budget. It's written in a very formal tone. It's going to an outside agency, right? They are reaching out to a foundation that provides money for these kinds of projects and saying, hey, here's our proposal, and what do you think? And could you give us the money? It is also considered an analytical proposal because they've looked at a problem, which is people not knowing how to change things in order to help with environmental issues. And after they did a whole survey, their solution was to create this house of horrors, where essentially it sounds like in each room they provide different possible solutions that will help the environment. Okay, so this is considered a formal business report, and it is an analytical business report. So all those questions that we looked at, you're going to use this proposal to answer. So all the other stuff that we had in here, I just had like kind of examples to show you, but we're just looking at those pages of the proposal in order to answer these questions. So I'm going to go over the questions again. Okay. And this is worth 25 marks. Let me see here. A, what is the purpose of the proposal? Who is your audience? In other words, who do they write it to? B, if the proposal is approved and the initiative is implemented, who will become the audience? In other words, once the display is complete, now who's going to be looking at the completed display? C, list 5 specific details of information contained within the proposal that you believe are important for the readers of the proposal to know about. That part's worth 5 marks. D, what benefit will this proposal, if approved, have for a larger audience? Comment in at least 2 sentences. So remember how in B we've identified our overall, like our new audience once it's completed? How will it benefit those types of people, right? If they're saying 2 sentences, it means they would want to have at least 2 benefits. So think about how would a display that tries to show solutions to environmental issues that people could take on their own, how would that benefit people? Or I guess maybe benefit the environment. Do you think there will be any disagreement to this proposal? So remember that it's going to the foundation. They're going to look at it. It's not automatic that just because these people are asking for money that they're going to get it, right? Somebody is going to be responsible, probably a committee, of looking at the proposal, discussing the proposal, and deciding whether they consider it a worthwhile project in order to grant the money. If it is a worthwhile project, then they'll grant it. If it's not considered a worthwhile project, then they won't grant the money, or if they, didn't have the money, that kind of thing. So do you think there will be any disagreement? Is there any reason that you see that people might not think it was a reasonable proposal or a useful proposal? If you don't think there'll be any disagreement, why? Why do you think that it will be agreed on? And again, comment in at least 2 sentences. That means please give me at least 2 reasons why there would be disagreement or why there would not be disagreement about this proposal. F, do you think the context is timing and circumstance, is it appropriate for the proposal? Remember, they're trying to create this in time for Harborville, and then there is Environmental Week, and they're going to try and set it up in the mall. And then later on, they're talking about setting up at various different summer events. And then in the upcoming time period, after the summertime, different schools. So do you think the context, the timing and circumstance is appropriate for the proposal? Comment in at least 2 sentences. Again, give me 2 reasons. One could relate to timing. One could relate to circumstance. They could both be timing. How does it relate? Finally, in a paragraph consisting of at least 6 sentences, summarize the proposal. Again, there's a lot of information there. You don't want to include every detail. You won't have the room to include every detail. So example, like just taking a look at the estimated costs. You don't need to tell me the entire breakdown for the estimated costs. You might want to tell me the overall cost and the final results. If that's the case, you may not need to mention a whole lot of information but the budget notes. You might be able to summarize that in one quick sentence. Looking at a section like staffing, can you summarize that in maybe 1 sentence? Keep in mind that both the introduction and the background are going to have some overlapping information. So you will want to include some information from both sections, but you want to make sure it's not overlapping, okay? And then the meat of the proposal is here's what they're looking for, and here's your reasons. You do want to include some part of their reason. And then they're talking about how they're going to use the display, which obviously you want to include some information on that. Okay. Yeah, that's a look at all those questions. Okay. Please remember to always use complete sentences. So for example, what is the purpose of this proposal? Who is the audience? Sometimes people get in the habit of just like writing like a 1-word answer. Again, because we're doing academic writing, that's not going to be appropriate. So you need to do something like the purpose of the proposal is, and then explain the purpose. The audience for this proposal might be, and then explain who the audience is going to be, right? Again, we've talked before about We don't want to answer everyone for audience, right? It's always tempting to say that, like, oh, this would be useful for everyone. Well, it would be, but is everyone going to be interested? Who are some people that might be really interested? Who are some people who wouldn't care, so they wouldn't be included in the audience? The benefits of this proposal would be, how will it benefit the people? And obviously, because of the proposal and what they're aiming for, what would be the benefit for the environment? And then it talks about disagreement. Yes, I think there will be disagreement to this proposal because, or no, I don't think there will be disagreement to this proposal because. You can also use initial phrases like I think, I believe, in my opinion. Okay. Um, oh, did we talk about okay. We've discussed before in summaries, make sure you always use an opening sentence. Your opening sentence is going to explain the overall topic, right? So, um, this is a summary of the uh, proposal made by so-and-so about la, la, la. Then you're going to give me all the details about the proposal, and then you're going to restate the topic. You don't want the opening sentence and the closing sentence to be exactly the same. It should sound different and hopefully kind of wrap things up in a way that gives a sense of closure and helps the reader feel like it was worthwhile to read that information. Okay. Um, gosh, I really feel like we've kind of covered all the important things. I'm going to do a quick review of editing stuff. Make sure you edit everything, even your short answers, but absolutely make sure you edit your summary. Review of capitalization rules. The word I is always capitalized, even when it's part of a contraction like I'm, I'll, I've, and I'd. I still get a lot of people handing me in things like I'm. So you see the computer automatically wants to change it. But a lot of people are handing me that in with a lowercase I. The beginning of a sentence is always capitalized. One thing I've noticed for some reason, sometimes when it's a M, a lowercase m, people are not capitalizing it. I don't know why. I'm gonna guess that maybe some people are used to doing their lowercase and their uppercase m exactly the same. Hang on, I'm just trying to see if I can find. There's a certain script that I know it's really obvious in. Hang on. Okay, so there's a lowercase m, and then okay. Oh, hang on. I'll do another lowercase. Um, Uppercase M's usually are pointed. I know it kind of sounds silly. Lowercase M's are not. But look at how the uppercase is bigger. So if you do your uppercase M with the rounded tops, can you please make sure it's still bigger? So it's very obvious that it's a capital, okay? No capitals are needed after a comma. So if you're doing like in the wintertime, comma, some people after the comma are treating it as a period and putting the next word as a capital. You don't need to. Names and titles start with a capital, and quotations where you're quoting somebody also start with a capital. Okay, usage. Usage issues are huge. There's a huge area, and there's so many different grammar topics. Some common usage errors to look out for. Singular nouns must have a, an, or the in front of them, even if they have adjectives in front. So I can't say in English, I saw a brown dog. I know it has all the information, but it's just considered incorrect. For English, you have to say, I saw a brown dog. Now, this is if it's singular. If it's plural, it is not as picky. You could put things like, let's see, trucks, trucks crashed on the highway. And it doesn't have to have the in front. Okay, obviously you couldn't use a or an because a or an indicate one only. I don't know why English has this particular peculiarity, but it is one of those things that you need to be conscious of. I find people are usually aware of it when it's an obvious noun, like people, places, and things. The issue is when you have things like concepts like the sadness filled his heart, right? Things like that. You also need to be conscious of subject-verb agreement. Singular nouns must have a singular verb. Plural nouns must use plural verbs. And here's one more issue where English is kind of weird. A singular noun, the verb is often going to have an S if it's in the third person, like he, she, it. We have an S on the end normally. Plural nouns, the verb does not have an S. It's almost backwards, but you wouldn't want to have they runs quickly. It's not considered appropriate. It's a temptation for some people because with plural nouns, you add an S. So sometimes people want to add an S to the plural verb, but we don't do that for verbs. The other common usage errors to look at are run-on sentences. I bought groceries. I also got the car washed. Here, the person just kept on talking as if they hadn't started a new sentence. The other way I'll see this sometimes is they'll put a comma there instead of putting a period. I think this is because we often do this in Facebook. I don't know why we don't use periods in Facebook, but we often don't, or Messenger. But in English, both of those would have to have a period. I bought groceries, period. I also got the car washed, period. Incomplete sentences, things like walking down the street. A lot of times I get people who will just skip the subject. They won't say I or it or there. They just start with the verb. In English, you can't just start with the verb. There has to be a subject. The other big usage error would be mixing up irregular adjectives and adverbs. He wanted that toy bad is incorrect. He wanted that toy badly, because badly is describing how they want, not describing the toy. It's not a bad toy. They want it badly or very much. Punctuation rules. There's a lot of punctuation rules, but I'm just kind of mentioning the ones that I see most commonly, okay? Using a comma instead of a period to end a sentence. That's probably the most common punctuation error I see. Using a comma to join two smaller sentences all by itself. If you're going to join two smaller sentences, that's fine, but you have to use a conjunction. It could be a coordinating conjunction, like I hate apples, but, sorry, I like apples, but I hate pears. Or you could use a subordinating conjunction, like after I eat, comma, I can play outside. Every now and again, I get people who will use a comma like it's a spice, and they'll just like add one, like, oh, comma, comma. And I think it's because they're not quite sure where to add commas. So they just kind of put them everywhere just to be on the safe side. Okay. But that's actually incorrect as well. If you're not sure, I have listed it before, but you can also message me. I have like a one-page kind of cheat sheet on how to do commas, and I'd be happy to send that along to you. We're kind of running near the end. Oh, the other big thing is apostrophes. Um, Make sure if you're using a contraction like I'll, can't, I'm, there's an apostrophe in the spot where you've left out the letters, right? For I will, we're not putting the WI, so we put an apostrophe. For can't, we're not putting the not, and we're dropping the O, and we're putting the apostrophe there. The other time you use apostrophe is when you're trying to show belonging, like the students' books. I'm trying to show that those books belong to the students. But I don't need an apostrophe when I'm just trying to make something plural, right? If I'm just plural, all I need is the S. The other funny one is if you already have a plural word, like the teacher's staff room, it belongs to the teachers. Instead of putting the apostrophe before the S, we put it after the S. Okay. Spelling issues. I won't tackle spelling issues today. Those are just some common punctuation errors. Especially look for these when you are doing your summary. As we write longer, we're kind of more prone to making mistakes. That's true for everybody, not just students, right? Thank you so much for joining me today. Tomorrow we will tackle, I think, 33. Okay. And I will see you guys tomorrow.